guys. Hey, there we go. Okay. Welcome to the Leadership Tech Talk 2026 powered by SOTI. My name is Shash Anand, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Product Strategy at SOTI. And I've been with this company for close to 17 years now. And honestly, I've never been more excited than where we are today with mobility, with technology, with all the things that are happening with AI. And so today what we're going to talk about is the number one fear that is keeping all the different software development managers, software engineers awake at night. What is that fear? Obsolescence. Now, if you just look, I actually just did a quick prompt, and I said, code is cheap, but value is infinite. And right away, I got 3 different options for my screen here. And I thought, okay, you guys all know I could probably generate 300 different options if I really wanted to in literally a matter of seconds. But does that mean that I should get rid of the marketing team? Well, some of my friends here are in marketing, so I don't know if I should just answer that right now. But what if we could jump 10 years into the future? And what if we could hear from some of our fearless technology leaders on what happened when AI came about? Let's take a look.
By 2030, almost 80% of people had lost their jobs.
They had no money, no purpose, but they had a lot of time on their hands.
The less people actually did physical work, the more they wanted to appear as if they did.
What if we could use the energy of humans to power the machines that took away their jobs?
Energem solved our need for energy and your need for purpose.
Okay, I hope you guys thought that was a bit of a funny video and not very serious. Unless you guys all want a membership to the gym, let me know. But I'm going to argue one thing. I'm going to argue that this fear is mathematically completely wrong. But we need to start with this fear because it is real. We see tools like ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.6 now. It keeps going on. And all of them are offering enterprise-grade code reasoning for literally pennies on the dollar. And the math seems pretty simple, right? If I took a project or an epic or a story, and it used to take 100 hours for me to complete, and now I can complete it in 10, then shouldn't I just fire 90% of my staff? That's something that we call the fixed pie fallacy. Now, don't get me wrong. What we're living in right now, we are currently living through a deflationary shock in the cost of producing software. These tools like DeepSeek, ChatGPT, Gemini, all of them out there, they're not just a chatbot. They're actually representing something much bigger, which is the commoditization of syntax. And writing code is no longer the expensive part. But I have to ask you guys all a question. Does cheaper software and production of cheaper software, does that mean that we're going to produce less software? Well, to answer that question, I'd like to go a little bit back in time. And let's visit an economist. How many of you guys have heard of the Jevons paradox? Not a lot. Okay. Well, let me give you a quick history lesson here. Back in the 1850s, coal was used as part of generating steam and a steam engine. So imagine you could use 10 pieces of coal, you take those pieces of coal, you heat them in a chamber, and now they're heating, and then you have water. Water will then boil, it will then generate steam, and now you've got the makings of a steam engine. In 1865, a gentleman by the name of James Watt introduced a much more efficient system where it could not just need 10 pieces of coal, he figured out a way to actually only use 2 pieces of coal. And all of a sudden, the coal industry just was in a shock. They said, what are we going to do? We don't need any more coal. Oh my God, what's going to happen? What actually happened was that all of a sudden, the Watt steam engine started to be used for new things because the cost had drastically got down. And so what actually happened was people started realizing, wow, if the cost is so cheap, maybe we can use these Watt steam engines in ships, trucks, factories, all of these different warehouses, all of these different places were starting to use the steam engine. And what happened then? The coal just skyrocketed. The entire consumption skyrocketed. In fact, efficiency didn't kill the coal industry. It actually generated and started the entire industrial revolution. And I want to give you a couple of more examples, actually. Think about roads. We have roads with, say, 2 or 3 lanes, right? And we see a lot of traffic going through those roads. So what do? We increase the number of lanes. What does that do initially? Initially, there's a lot less consumption because there's more lanes. What happens over time? People start realizing that they could start using these lanes, and all of a sudden, the consumption starts increasing even more. What about data? What about the internet? We had in the past, data would start being used, and there was a specific size of a pipe that would be used for data. And now we introduced the concept of compression. And all of a sudden, we could have more data being used. But what happened there? Did people start using less data? No. We actually started increasing the quality of the data. Now everybody is streaming over 4K videos right to their phone all the time. So we increased the consumption once again. Think about light bulbs. Light bulbs used to take up a huge amount of energy, right? And people would turn their lights off. They didn't want to use as much energy at night. And then all of a sudden, LEDs got introduced. And the LEDs created a 90% efficiency in the use of energy. So what happened there? Well, all of a sudden, everybody's leaving their lights on 24/7 all the time. Let's take a look at another example. This is in the 1980s. And the ATM, the automated teller machine. And everybody thought once these ATMs come out, the bankers are gone. They're going to start reducing the number of bankers that they need per bank. Did that happen? Yes, absolutely it happened. Because now all of a sudden these ATMs are able to count cash and give you cash automatically. But what actually happened over time is the banks realized they were able to reduce their cost of operating a bank. And all of a sudden, a massive increase in the number of banks, a 43% increase. What happened to those tellers or bankers? The number of bankers increased overall in total. So this is another example of where we're seeing an increase in these tellers or bankers. And not only that, another interesting thing, these bankers were actually able to start doing something more important. They were able to sell loans. They were able to solve problems. They were able to increase and make a better relationship with those end customers. Let's think about the spreadsheet. Did this kill all of the accountants? Accountants used to use pen and paper and perform calculations over and over again. And if they wanted to make a change, it was pretty drastic. It was pretty hard to do that. And then enter in the Excel spreadsheet, and everybody said, oh, we don't need accountants anymore. We could do all of that stuff. But what actually happened? What actually happened is the accountants were able to spend time on the numbers. They're able to do financial analysis. They're able to do what-if scenarios. They're able to provide much more meaningful conversations to their end customers because the accounting, the math is all done automatically. And finally, let's take a look at the software industry itself. Imagine this iceberg, and above the water is all of your core applications, your operating system, all the things that you produce out there. And underneath the water is all of the things like the internal tools, the dashboards, all of those customer requests where, it's going into your backlog. You say, yeah, we'll work on that. That's going to go in your backlog, right? And those are things you might have to say no to. Why do you have to say no to those things? Well, you only have a certain number of developers and certain number of resources available, so you have to pick your priority items. And I would argue that with all of these tools, DeepSeek, Claude Opus 4.6, ChatGPT, Gemini, all of these tools, I would say that what they're doing is they're lowering the water level. What they're doing is they're allowing us to address a lot of those ROI negative or return on investment negative projects that would be very costly if you had your whole team working on them. But now we're actually able to attack those ones as well. And that's pretty good because all of a sudden those ROI negative projects can become profitable. So now that AI in fact has allowed us to work faster and to work cheaper than ever before, my question to you guys is, how are things going to change for your job and how are you going to get better at your job? What are the newer ideas that leaders are actually thinking about? And what can you do to innovate and to differentiate yourself in your roles?